What's going on, guys? Farzy Vasukin here with you on a Sunday night. Yes, the divisional round of the NFL playoffs are now over. We now know who's playing in the AFC Championship game. The stage is set. It is going to be the Buffalo Bills after they came away with a narrow 2-point win over the Ravens, and they will visit Kansas City in Arrowhead next Sunday. Put it on your calendars next Sunday, January the 26th, and it is going to be 5:30 p.m. Central Time. Chiefs and Bills. That is the game for next Sunday. I know a lot of people are going to be looking forward to that game. I know a lot of people are going to want to attend that game. And I'll tell you what, if you guys want to go and attend next Sunday's AFC Championship game, you already know where I go. That's SeatGeek.com. SeatGeek is where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs. And we all know these playoff tickets are not very cheap. In fact, they're very pricey. So you want to save $20? If you're a new customer, you can get your AFC Championship tickets and put in my promo code Farzine at checkout. You'll save $20 off your first purchase. So go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets, pick your seats for the AFC Championship game, and to give you a little bonus there for $20 off, you can save by putting in my promo code Farzine at checkout if you're a new customer. All right. I see a lot of people in the chat right now. I know a lot of people are going to have their thoughts on this game. I'll give you guys my thoughts, what the Chiefs need to do. Just, early preliminary thoughts here. Let me just get this out of the way real quickly because the betting line is out. The Chiefs are 1.5-point betting favorites. The over-under is set at 49.5. And the Chiefs are minus 115 betting favorites on the money line, while the Bills are at minus 105. So neither team in the plus category for the money line there, which is interesting. Yeah, 40. It started at 49.5. It's already dropped to 48.5. Let me see if the line has changed at all. Yeah, now it's dropped. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. It's already changed. The Chiefs are now minus 120 favorites on the money line, and the Bills are plus 100. Okay. All right. So much for saying that, but that is where the betting line is. Obviously, that is going to change as the week goes on. I'm sure Buffalo will be favored at some point in the week, and it'll change back to Kansas City. So the betting line's already shifting, and it's only been a couple of minutes there. How are you guys feeling? When you look at that divisional round game between Buffalo and Baltimore, what is it you're looking for in that one? What do you see to make you believe that Kansas City is going to win this football game? What does Kansas City have to do in order to win and not let Buffalo do it again and essentially let history repeat itself in the postseason by Mahomes beating Allen once again for the fourth time? Don says, please make us the underdog. Yeah. I think the Chiefs certainly thrive in that when it is that way. Because here's my thing. I'll just say right now, the number one thing Kansas City has to do, contain Josh Allen. Josh Allen will absolutely take advantage of any open lane that is provided to him. And I know when we look at the defense, I think a lot of people will look at Kansas City and say that their biggest weakness all year has been how they cover tight ends. I mean, I agree with that. That's certainly a big glaring hole for Kansas City this year. Excuse me. I think they've improved on that as the season's gone along, but I would argue that Kansas City stopping quarterbacks and the whole scrambling situation, that has been a bigger issue for Kansas City's defense this year. It certainly has. And I'll give you some numbers here. Against Josh Allen, 12 scrambles for 55 yards. That's actually pretty good when you consider that for a quarterback, except Everyone remembers that last play by Josh Allen where on 4th and 2, just bulldoze through Kansas City's defense, and he's been doing it to other defenses as well. 26-yard run right there. Karlaftis came this close, possibly stripping the ball out of his hand, but almost doesn't cut it. So Josh Allen, he just bulldozed his way through Kansas City's defense, and that won Buffalo the football game. When you look at the Chiefs and how they played against C.J. Stroud, I mentioned C.J. Stroud. He's going to scramble against Kansas City. I said it last week as soon as the divisional round matchups were set. I said the Chiefs have to watch out for C.J. Stroud and his ability to take advantage of an open lane. And Kansas City failed at that in yesterday's game. I would say the two big things I had an issue with the Chiefs defense. One was that opening drive of the second half. Just struggled, couldn't get a stop. That was the only bad drive of the game. But I think throughout the game, the one big issue, two issues really. One was the open receivers you saw constantly, but it wasn't too big of a deal because Houston only put up 12 points. They got a gimme 2 points in the end of the game there. But C.J. Stroud, he found a way to run on Kansas City's defense there at one point, had a 28-yard run. He had another big run at one point. That was called back because of a holding penalty on, I think it was Karlaftis or Wharton. I can't believe which player it was. But C.J. Stroud ran 6 times for 42 yards. I mentioned this many times already in the past couple of weeks. There's only been one 100-yard rusher against Kansas City this season, and that guy was Lamar Jackson. The very first game of the NFL season, Lamar ran for 111 yards on Kansas City's defense. That's the only 100-yard rusher the Chiefs have allowed. Not a single running back was able to rush for 100 on Kansas City. Joe Mixon, what did he run for? It was 82 yards? No, 88 yards, rather. That's the best by a running back against Kansas City this season. But no one's rushed for 100. Do I think Josh Allen's going to get 100 on Kansas City? I don't believe so. In fact, I don't believe he's had 100 in a game this year. He came close against the Rams earlier this year. Remember that shootout? That it played a big factor in allowing Kansas City to lock up the 1 seed 1 week early in the regular season. I created a nice gap in the conference there. Allen ran 10 times for 82 yards. He ran 11 times for 68 yards a week later against the Detroit Lions. That was another high-scoring football game, and I believe that was a Sunday night football game, if I recall correctly. Ran 12 times for 55 yards against the Chiefs. I mentioned that one already. The week before, 8 times for 50 against the Colts. Earlier in the season against Houston, ran 4 times for 54 yards. Those are some of the more better games Allen's had in terms of just running with the football there. And by the way, one important thing, and I saw people already mention in the comments here that Kansas City's got to take better care of the football. You've got to be on your A game here. And Kansas City, they have not committed a turnover since facing Baltimore, since facing Buffalo, the only true loss of Kansas City's season. That is Kansas City's only true loss this season there. So, yeah, I see some comments about Tyler Bass. Tyler Bass has actually played better. The two kickers in this game that we just watched, Justin Tucker and Tyler Bass, they've struggled all year long. Bass has kind of struggled for quite some time, but both of them have played much better lately. Obviously, Tucker's season just came to an end, but for Tyler Bass, he's certainly played much better. I think he made a 51-yarder in this one here. So this is going to be interesting here, because if it does come down to a game-tying or game-winning field from Tyler Bass, I think the Bills have a lot of confidence. Now, I'm sure a lot of people in the moment will recall what happened last year, but that's a different game. Every game's a different game here. Kind of like the Chiefs and the Bills. I mean, every time the Bills beat the Chiefs in the regular season, it just feels like almost every single time that happens, the Chiefs avenge that loss in the playoffs. Happened last year. Happened in the same season as a 13-second game. I think the Bills beat the Chiefs in another regular season game, but they didn't meet in the postseason that year. I think that was the year where the Chiefs finally got that win over Joe Burrow. But I just think in general, every game's a different game. I think you've got to always keep that in mind. So this is a winnable game. I'm picking Kansas City to win this, of course. You guys know me. I mean, who else would I be picking in this one? But I'm confident in Kansas City here. And I think one thing to kind of have an optimistic spin here, Hollywood Brown did not have a catch in yesterday's game, nor did DeAndre Hopkins. They were only targeted 3 times in that game yesterday, all of them in the first half. And by the way, DeAndre Hopkins, and I don't have the snap count in front of me here, he did not play a lot of snaps. I think it was like 16 snaps on offense in yesterday's game. So the way I see it, they didn't take any big bumps or bruises in that game. So they're kind of feeling maybe a little fresh, maybe a little fresher than Travis Kelce going into the AFC Championship game, because Kelce obviously had a big workload with the 7 catches for, what was it, 107 yards, 117 yards, whatever it was. Excuse me, and the touchdown. So I think when you just look at the offense, because I said yesterday, one of my keys was for the Chiefs to utilize their wide receivers. And the only wide receiver who caught a pass yesterday was Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs. So you're not going to win with just throwing to Xavier Worthy. I mean, Hollywood Brown has to step up in this one. I know he got open on that first play right there. Mahomes unable to connect with him. The second time Mahomes connected or tried to connect with Hollywood Brown, kind of a close play right there. Could have gone either way. Defender just had a hand on the ball the entire time while Hollywood was trying to secure it and then knocked it out. Didn't have possession all the way through. So that's just something to consider right there. And then the pass to DeAndre Hopkins, and I rewatched the game today. That was just a really bad throw by Patrick Mahomes, throwing it behind, forcing him to kind of turn his body around. And that's just never an easy thing to ask for any pass catcher. But I think in general, like when you look at the Chiefs, I feel pretty good. I like their offense. Buffalo's defense is going to come to play. You know they're going to be aggressive. They're going to definitely bring those hard shots. I mean, why wouldn't you? You absolutely need to be aggressive in this one. And by the way, let me just say this. I was surprised that Sean McDermott, when the Buffalo had the ball at the 1 or the 2 yard line, right before that potential game-tying drive for Baltimore, I was really surprised Sean McDermott went for the field goal there. Because I feel like I get the logic, because if you kick the field goal, you can't lose in regulation, essentially. Unless something terribly goes wrong when you have the ball last in that situation. But if that was Kansas City, and if there is a situation where that happens at Arrowhead, Sean McDermott's going for it. I do not believe any idea or scenario where Sean McDermott would not go for it. So if you're Kansas City, the most important thing in this game is to not allow the Bills to get in situations where Josh Allen can do the quarterback sneak, the tush push, the brotherly shove, whatever everyone's calling it, because that just doesn't ever fail. I think the only time the tush push was ever stopped was in the playoff game last year between Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. I know there was like another instance where Philadelphia failed on the tush push, but that was like their own doing. They fumbled at some situation. But in general, that never gets stopped. I don't think Josh Allen has ever failed on a quarterback sneak. And by the way, props to Baltimore's defense, because that defense forced a big stop when Josh Allen on 3rd and goal from about the 2 or the 3 yard line was trying to go for it. Had the thick handoff, tried to make it look like he was going to throw, and then he just took off. Baltimore's defense was ready for it. That's something Kansas City. This is my thing with Kansas City's defense. The Kansas City's defense has been great. Obviously, last year, they got a lot of the credit when the offense didn't have its shit together with the drops and the penalties and all of those things. But this year, the one big problem I have with Kansas City's defense is they allow quarterbacks to just run wild. And I get it. I mean, you have to account for a lot of things when you go up against Buffalo's offense. But if you're Kansas City, you have to have a quarterback spy here. And how do you manage that? I don't know. That is for Steve Spagnuolo to figure out, and I'm sure he will come up with a game plan for this. Listen, we all have a lot of high praise for Spags. I don't know anyone out there that actually pays attention to football that doesn't have any that has anything negative to say about Spags. The guy always figures something out. He absolutely does. We miss Willie Gay. I disagree. Listen, I've been saying all offseason, I think Leo Chenal is going to do a really good job. And by the way, let's remember last year when the Chiefs faced the Ravens in the AFC Championship game, the number one rushing offense in the NFL, Kansas City played great, and that was without Willie Gay. Don't get me wrong, Willie Gay, a very good run-stopping linebacker, but I think George Karlaftis has proven he's just as good. Nick Bolton. Let's not forget that in that game against the Falcons, I know everyone wants to recall the pass interference that was a missed call there, but the Falcons got the ball back after a 3-and-out, and on 4th and inches, what happens? They lost 3 or 4 yards on a run play there on a toss, and Nick Bolton just completely exploded and blew that play up and got some help from Leo Chenal, Chris Jones, Turk Wharton when they were getting that nice little push there to be able to take down Bijan Robinson. So when I look at that right there, I just think that, listen, I have confidence in Kansas City's run defense. I know Joe Mixon played a great game, but thankfully for Kansas City offensively, and I know stat-wise you're not going to see it because Mahomes only threw 177 yards, but Kansas City's offense played with the lead and for most of the game, really. Kansas City never trailed in this one, and they were able to extend their lead. So what did Houston do in the second half, or specifically more so in the fourth quarter? They abandoned the run game. Because you, as great as Joe Mixon is, you can't just rely on him when you're down by multiple possessions. And at that point, CJ Stroud was under a lot of pressure to try to make something happen, and the Chiefs were sending pressure to CJ Stroud. So having a multiple possession lead, way easier said than done. Let me just be clear about that. And I don't think that's going to happen in this game. But if the Chiefs do have a 2-score lead of any kind in this game, you got to take advantage of it. And by the way, let's look at James Cook here, because James Cook did not play very well against Kansas City. He had 9 carries for 20 yards, did have 2 touchdowns in that one. James Cook, one of the better red zone scorers in the NFL. But outside of the 2 touchdowns, in terms of just running the football, James Cook did not do very well. And I'm just looking through his entire season. I don't think anyone has held James Cook to fewer than 2.2 yards per carry. Yeah, nobody was able to hold him to fewer than that. Kansas City had about 2.2. He ran for 2.7 against the Titans and a blowout win there. He ran for 3.3 against the Rams. That was a high-scoring game where Buffalo was behind for a majority of the game, and it was a 2-score game for a majority of it, so they couldn't really use James Cook much in the ground game. So that's something to just be aware of there. Let me just look at the betting line real quickly, because that's already changed in terms of the plus. It has changed again. So the Chiefs are still minus 1.5 point favorites, but the Chiefs are now minus 125 money line favorites. The Bills have dropped to plus 105. That's interesting. Okay. People already, usually that is due to, I guess, the early bettors. I mean, I don't know how those numbers are crunched, but that is for you guys to figure out, I suppose. I just read what's posted out there. I know there are podcasts and radio shows on these things, but do those people really know at the end of the day what's really happening? I know we spent a lot of time talking about Buffalo's offense, and we've only done a little bit of Kansas City's offense here. Let's go back to Kansas City's offense, because obviously there's been an inconsistency this year with Kansas City's offense. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that the Chiefs are missing a lot of their wide receivers this season. Oh, what is going on? ESPN got hacked? What? Oh my God, guys, ESPN just posted this picture. That is from ESPN's account right there. I swear to God. Someone hacked ESPN. It wasn't me. I'm talking to you guys. That's hilarious. I mean, I'm sure ESPN's pissed, but that is fucking hilarious. That is whoever's responsible for that. Good on you guys. Did Buffalo score a touchdown in the second half of this game? I don't believe they did. No, Buffalo. Yeah. Buffalo didn't score a single touchdown in the second half. Baltimore had all the momentum in this one. It just felt like, because I said at halftime, I said if Buffalo gets a touchdown on their opening drive for the second half, I was ready to say game over. I really was. So the fact that Baltimore woke up and started to get going, I mean, they played like they played with a purpose in the second half. They definitely did. But obviously it wasn't enough to win. I know a lot of people are on Mark Andrews right now, and listen, rightfully so. He had that fumble against the Bills in the fourth quarter there when the Ravens seemed like they were on a rhythm. And then on that 2-point try right there, the onside kick. I mean, Kansas City dealt with that last year. Kansas City dealt with that a lot last year. Look, KC says they sure as shit posted that. Are you assuming that's really ESPN that posted that? I don't know. I'd like to think that really wasn't them, but it's kind of funny. Chiefs run game is suffering with Tooney at left tackle. Gregory, let me ask you a question. And listen, you're not the only one who thinks this, Gregory. A lot of people have said this as well. But what's more important, the run game or protecting Patrick Mahomes? Because if Patrick Mahomes does not have protection in this game, the three-peat's not happening. I know that the Chiefs have won the last two Super Bowls with bad offensive tackle play. I get that. But right now, I don't think this is a time to experiment anything. And I just don't prefer to do that. I don't know what the Chiefs are going to do. Does DJ Humphries play? Do they try him out for a drive and see how it goes? I suppose they're going to give that a try there. So we'll see. We will see, because I'm looking at Kansas City right now. I think part of it is the injury certainly played a role. This is what I was saying before I got distracted with ESPN's little post there. You missed Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice for a majority of the season. Hollywood is back. You have Xavier Worthy, who's gotten better. DeAndre Hopkins, he's essentially replacing Rashee Rice and has gotten more and more of the playbook. Didn't get involved last week much, though. I guarantee you, when Andy Reid does his press conference tomorrow, one of the questions has to be, hey, what was the decision into giving DeAndre Hopkins just 15 or 16 snaps, whatever it was? Because it wasn't many. Even Juju had more snaps than Hopkins, and that was a surprise to me. I think, and I don't think Andy Reid's going to give an honest answer in that one right there, but I think internally, like, the decision to maybe do that in the second half as the game was getting away from Houston was to just maybe not force him out there, not pressure him, not have him go through anything physically if he doesn't have to. Because I'm telling you right now, you're not winning next week if Xavier Worthy's your only wide receiver catching passes. The referees are back. Lester, I'm sure we're betting on the Chiefs then, because that's how it works, right? I mean, if we're convinced that this product is rigged, then I guess we're betting a lot of money on the Chiefs. I mean, that's free money right there. Come on. You can't ever say no to money. By the way, Matt Derrick just pointed out the Chiefs will draft either 30th, 31st, or 32nd. Hopefully it is 32nd, but that is that's out there for those who care. Obviously, I don't think a lot of people care about that right now, but that is certainly. Yeah, Blake, that's what a lot of people were talking about. A lot of people were hoping that maybe that whoever wins this game would be kind of gassed out and physically just kind of go up against each other. Because there is a thing. Remember when the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl in the 2013 season? And I remember the following year in 2014, there was like a really weird trend going where whoever played the Seahawks, win or lose, the following week they would lose. And there was like a little, there was some speculation going on by people in the media wondering, is Seattle wearing out teams? And I think you're kind of hoping, hey, did maybe Baltimore do enough to wear out Buffalo? Obviously, that's not Baltimore's goal. They don't give a shit about this game, the AFC Championship game, because they're not in it. But I think from a Chiefs standpoint, you wanted them to kind of beat the shit out of each other because you're hoping that they're going to be a little more worn out coming into this game. By the way, I missed the question earlier, and I'm reading the comments as I go along here, and I'm trying to keep up because there are a lot of good questions. I'm just not able to get to all of it right away. But somebody was asking about Chris Jones. Chris Jones appeared to be fine. He did the press conference after the game yesterday. Generally, when a player speaks to the media, it usually means that they're not with the trainers or getting evaluated or anything like that. That means they're usually fine. Andy Reid did say after the game, just a few bumps and bruises, but no major injuries to report. So I'm sure he'll be on the injury report because he was worked on late in the game yesterday by one of the trainers. Something with the lower leg. I don't know exactly what it was, but Kansas City had every player practice last week. Keep that in mind. The only player who did not practice was McCole Hardman. I'm sorry. The only player who was not a full participant was McCole Hardman. He was limited all week. He's on IR too. Does he get elevated? Do they go with Nico Remigio? Do they demote a guy like Carson Steele, who I don't think Carson Steele's touched the ball in quite some time? It's been a very long time since we've last seen it. Yeah, Lori, that's probably reasonable to think, especially as the game got away from. Because here's the thing with Andy Reid, and I don't agree with this entirely. And listen, I don't have to. I guess Andy doesn't need my approval because he's won 300 games, for crying out loud. But sometimes Andy Reid will do this thing where if the Chiefs have a solid lead, he'll pull back a bit. He won't be as aggressive. Whereas, like you saw Buffalo last week against the Broncos. I mean, they were destroying the Broncos, but they weren't, trying to just run out the clock. They were looking to put more points on the scoreboard. And that was a little bit of a surprise to me. So if you're Kansas City, this is one of those situations where, look, you got to be ready for anything and everything. But at the same time, you don't want to put much on film. Keep one thing in mind. Hollywood Brown has not played a lot of games this year for Kansas City. So there isn't a lot of film you can really go off with Hollywood. If you want to really evaluate Hollywood and break him down, you're going to have to go back to his past games before joining Kansas City. And yes, that is what coaches do. I don't think a lot of people realize this. Coaches spend a lot of hours in their office at the practice facility. And a lot of it is film study, trying to see what they can find and how they can coach this and teach this to their players. They do a lot of this. I don't think people realize that, but I just wanted to get that out there. Need more Hollywood. He has looked good when given opportunity since his return. Yeah, he looked really good in those two games that he played against Houston and against Pittsburgh. Obviously, I'm referring to the other Houston game in the regular season. Obviously, didn't see much of it. I liked what I saw from Hollywood Brown and his route running when he was going up against those defensive backs there. They didn't really have much of an answer for him. It's just Mahomes overthrew him on that first pass, and on the second one, that was just broken up. A really good defensive play there. Small sample size, so can't really go up much of that. That's why I keep saying there's not a lot of film for teams to study when it comes to Hollywood with the Chiefs. Yeah, I think this is going to be a game where Chris Jones absolutely. I mean, listen, obviously you want him to get the sacks, but if you don't get the sacks, that's fine. You got to get the next best thing, because your defensive line is going to have a big battle in the trenches. I mean, the line of scrimmage battle on both sides of the football, that is going to be huge. But Chris Jones probably going to need the best game of his career here. That's definitely going to be needed, because if he can get a little bit of a push there, and give the linebackers a nice little lane to kind of attack those gaps, the A and B gaps, then maybe that's what'll allow guys like Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquil, Leo Chenal to get in there and not allow James Cook to go off, not allow Josh Allen to go for big runs. Hopefully we see a game plan like New England used against Atlanta in the Super Bowl. Buffalo's defense is looking gas at the end of games recently. You certainly saw, like, if we're using Charlie Weissisms here, the Ravens won the second half. That's not my logic. That is a Charlie Weiss logic, which we know is not worth much. But I think it kind of still goes to your point, Chris, that, yeah, Buffalo definitely seemed like let's just say there was another 15-minute period to play in that game. How confident would you be in Buffalo? Because, like I said, they didn't score a touchdown in that game in the second half. I think that was a big difference maker here. John says we need to have a blowout. We are all tired of winning by 3. Bring out those plays. You've been holding back all year. Hit D-Hop, Worthy, Brown. Yeah. I mean, listen, you're putting all those guys out there, and on paper, it sounds wonderful. The Chiefs just don't blow teams out at the end of the day. Here's my thing. I think for a while we've always said that we always feel like the Chiefs hold back. I mean, I've said it before. You guys have said it before. And we say, oh, okay, they're going to, flip the switch or start playing better in the playoffs. We haven't necessarily seen that, even in recent postseasons. So I don't know. Yeah, I love the narrative, the ref narrative. It's always fun to me. As if like Buffalo didn't get away with a couple in this one. That the interference right before halftime. I mean, Keon Coleman definitely pushed that defender down. Like, come on. But somehow everything's always connected to the Chiefs. I'm watching these games today, as well as last night's game between Detroit and Washington. And whenever there's a missed call, people always want to connect it to Kansas City. It's hilarious. We had Morris at left tackle too, going to be much better this time. You mean since moving away from Wanya Morris? I mean, that I would agree with. Because wasn't Wanya Morris inactive yesterday for the first time this season? Yeah, Shakir. I remember Shakir had that touchdown on Snead. That was the first time Snead allowed a touchdown all year. Lamar just said the F word in his interview. Look, let me just say this real quickly about Lamar, and maybe we get into it a little more this week because he's about to win his 3rd MVP. But my God, and I haven't had a chance to look at Twitter, but I am sure I say for a majority of the second half of the season, Buffalo fans and Baltimore fans have been going at it, especially with the MVP debate here. Oh boy, I'm sure a lot of Baltimore fans are not happy because, I think there were a lot of bragging rights here among those two fan bases as to who the better player was. I mean, Lamar's going to win the MVP in a couple of weeks. I think that's kind of obvious considering he was first team All-Pro, but that kind of leads me to my next point. Josh Allen's never won an All-Pro or an MVP or never been a first team All-Pro. Lamar, on the other hand, like he's about to get more MVPs than Patrick Mahomes, but he just does not have the postseason resume for it. And you know what the crazy part is? I don't blame today's game on Lamar Jackson. This was not on Lamar. Like, what did Lamar do? I get in the first half, Lamar could have played better, but in the second half, Baltimore got going. What could Lamar have done better in the second half? But it's a lot of people are just going to put it on him. I mean, they just will. So I can understand Lamar's frustration, man. This is a guy that has a lot to prove. Because I remember last year against Houston, I think it was, when CJ Stroud was a rookie, Baltimore beat Houston. And at the start of his press conference, Lamar Jackson said, yeah, I heard all the talk about my playoff record. It's like he knows the narrative. He wants to change that narrative. He couldn't do it last year against Kansas City. And yeah, sure, they beat their division rival last week, but I think a lot of people expected that considering how the Steelers were on a massive decline. But in this game, boy, massive game here. The guy who, was also an MVP candidate and you lost to him. Again, I don't think you can really put it on Lamar. That's on Mark Andrews, but people are going to put it on Lamar. I am interested because I heard someone say this earlier, and I do agree with this. I guarantee you tomorrow morning, and I love listening to national radio. So I'm going to be checking that out tomorrow morning. I guarantee you more people are going to be talking about the loser of this game. Because that's I think what's going to drive a lot of conversation. The loser of this game between Buffalo and Baltimore. I guarantee you there are going to be a lot of people that have a lot to say about Lamar Jackson not getting it done again when the lights are the brightest. Marvin, that's a great point. I mean, we haven't had much of that, though. Kansas City's offensive line played great against Houston the first time these two teams played about 3 or 4 weeks ago. But in yesterday's game, Joe Tooney had some problems. Caliendo struggled a bit. You saw Jawan Taylor have some problems as well. They definitely had problems against that top-tier defensive line with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. Yeah, that's a nice thing. Chiefs are pretty much damn close to full strength. They just don't have Rice, who, in a way, you can just say they swapped him out for DeAndre Hopkins. McCole Hardman he's the only guy that's not on the active roster. Because I think for them to promote Jalen Watson to the 53-man roster right before yesterday's game on Friday, that was huge. That was absolutely huge. Kansas City needed that. Because I think Watson coming back, and Blake, you also mentioned Charles Omenihu. Charles Omenihu, his last 2 playoff games, has had a strip sack. Like, I'm telling you guys right now, number 90, 9-0, he's going to be very important in this game. Because did Charles Omenihu play against Buffalo? I don't think he did. Let me just double check on that. I think having Charles Omenihu back is going to be important. No, he did not. Having Jalen Watson, who also did not play against Buffalo, that is going to be very important as well. 2 very important guys, and 2 very people outside of Kansas City might hear the names Charles Omenihu and Jalen Watson and might not think much of them. Because let's just be honest here, Kansas City defensively, this is not a defense that has a lot of prime stats. I mean, the sack total this year wasn't as big until late in the second half of the season. As far as takeaways go, not a lot either. Again, up until those 3 games in 11 days. So this is not a football team that thrives statistically with those things. They just do a really good job of getting stops and forcing a lot of punts and not giving up so many points. Which, if you're not getting a lot of sacks and takeaways, fine, do the next best thing. And that's what Kansas City's done. And I think having Jalen Watson back will help with that. Having Charles Omenihu this time against the Buffalo Bills will help with that, because those 2 guys did not play against Buffalo last time. I think that is going to be a big difference maker here for sure. I mean, listen, Juju's low on the depth chart. He's not. I mean, he had that really good game against New Orleans, but since he came back from his injury, he's been fairly quiet this season. So that's he's just lower on the depth chart at the end of the day. So I know there was another comment earlier this weekend about Nico Remigio. Why isn't he getting more involved? I mean, you just can't get everyone involved. The Chiefs have a lot of guys they really like. They have 3 running backs they like. That's why we haven't seen a lot of Carson Steele lately. 2 really good tight ends, 3 good wide receivers, and I'm not including Juju as part of that 3 there. So it's hard to get everyone involved on that chase. But, in a situation where, if Hopkins and Hollywood, if they're getting covered a lot, yeah, Juju is probably the one guy who should come through for you if he's on the field. Yeah, that certainly would be all over NFL memes, Timothy. I don't know if you guys saw Tavia Hunt, Clark Hunt's wife. Dude, she did not hold back. She definitely let NFL memes know, like, hey, you guys keep saying all these things, but other teams are getting bad calls too, which is true. Like, everyone gets bad calls. Everyone gets away with certain things, but it's only a big deal when it's Kansas City, baby. It's only a big deal when it's them. Jeffers Crew. Yeah, I agree with you, Teresa. And I said this today. I'm like, they're letting the players get away with a lot in this one. I think the contact as Lamar was going out of bounds started inbounds, but as they're going out of bounds, the defender's not letting go. I mean, Adam, you are speaking to the choir. I do not disagree. I've been saying this for a long time. The fact that, it's a quarterback-driven league, the voters just give it to the quarterbacks. Boy, I'm behind on the comments. Well, where am I at? 9:15 and it's 9:21. Okay, so I'll read some more comments here. And then I'll get out. I mean, yeah, Josh, I agree with you. Yeah, he had the interception and the fumble in the first half. Certainly should have been, especially the fumble. Like, that one, not really an excuse for it. A phantom fumble there, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like he did what he needed to do in the second half to rally and get the team going, right? I know overall body of work, like, yeah, if you're Baltimore, you got to look back at this game and say that the team should have played better in the first half, specifically Lamar. But, it was what it was, and Lamar got the team going in the second half. So, I think you can blame the first half on Lamar, and you blame the second half on Mark Andrews there. Tomlin can't win in January. Yeah, it's been a really long time since the Steelers last won a playoff game. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun to pay attention to as the week goes along. See who everyone picks. How do you stop the quarterback sneak? I mean, that's a good question. I don't think you do. I truly don't, and I'm not saying that to be negative, but realistically speaking, how many times have you seen teams stop the quarterback sneak, especially now with the way the tush push? Everyone's doing the tush push. You don't see the traditional quarterback sneak where it's just the quarterback going for it and just trying to push his way forward. You're seeing it where everyone's bunched up together and you're getting the push from the tight end, fullback, running back, whoever you have in your personnel there. You would like to see the Chiefs be the home underdog. Yeah, I mean, one important thing, the Chiefs have not lost at home this year. I think the only time the Chiefs have been underdogs this year, or this season rather, would be the 49ers game and the Buffalo game. Was there another game where the Chiefs were underdogs this season? Because I don't recall any others. I think it was just San Francisco and Buffalo. So, Marvin, you're not wrong here, because who from Buffalo? Let me pull up the All-Pro team here. All-Pro 2024 NFL. Because when you look at the All-Pro team, how many people from Baltimore are on it? Or I'm sorry, Buffalo, man. I keep getting Buffalo and Baltimore mixed up. Josh Allen made second team All-Pro. That's it. Josh Allen was the only All-Pro player this year. And I know Baltimore, I keep saying Baltimore, Buffalo fans, I know they always say that Josh Allen is better than Mahomes and Burrow and all these other quarterbacks because Allen's always been doing this on his own and he doesn't have any playmakers as teammates. Okay, I get that. And Colin Cowherd made a really great point a while ago where he said that for the Chiefs, they only have Patrick Mahomes put on a cape occasionally. They don't have him do it all the time. Whereas Josh Allen, he has to put on a cape from start to finish. And he's not wrong. He's absolutely not wrong. Let me see who from Buffalo made the Pro Bowl. Allen made it. Dawkins made it. That's it. Now, again, I don't want to put too much stock in the Pro Bowl, but it is a fan vote. And I'm just wondering because I know Buffalo fans they value James Cook. I think James Cook is highly underrated. I really do. Is he good enough to be a Pro Bowl over Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, and Jonathan Taylor? I don't know. That's a little hard to debate there. Let me just quickly look at Jonathan Taylor's numbers this season. Yeah, no, never mind. Taylor certainly earned it this year. I didn't realize he was having that good of a year. But I do think James Cook is a highly underrated running back. Like, if you could have had a fourth player, I don't know who that fourth running back would be for a Pro Bowl spot, but he's very underrated. Buffalo is crying again. Why would they be crying? They just won. Yes, James, you're right. The Chiefs opened out -1.5 betting favorites, but the money line has already changed. It's been the same for a while now. -125 for Kansas City, +105 for Buffalo. I mean, Rice is younger right now, sure, but unfortunately he's not available. I think D-Hop's veteran presence is really going to be very important for Kansas City. I hope it's a sack fest. I'm with you. Because when Kansas City started racking up all those sacks in the fourth quarter yesterday, that really helped. That really helped. I mean, I think Nick Bolton had some struggles early on with some coverage. He's gotten better. But Kansas City's got to be ready because they did leave Nico Collins open a lot yesterday. Dalton Schultz a couple of times as well. They had a couple other receivers from Houston that was getting open. So they've got to be much better about that. That middle of the field needs to be better. And I noticed that in that Sunday Night Football game against the Chargers, on third down, they would send some linebackers and defensive backs for blitzes, but they just kept leaving someone open in the middle of the field for a nice little gain there on like 3rd and 5. That was just frustrating to watch. And we've seen that for a while. Okay, so I answered this yesterday, Trez. This is actually a really good question. Would you start Kareem is what he's asking. Here's what I want the Chiefs to do. And I said this yesterday and I'll repeat it again. I want the Chiefs to go ahead and start Pacheco, and here's why. Let Pacheco go out there and kind of get a feel for things. And if Pacheco's playing well, if he's got the hot hand, continue to use Pacheco. Kareem Hunt absolutely needs to be your running back in short yardage situations. If you're in a 3rd and long situation or a 2nd and long situation, I definitely think that is where you would need Samaje Perine more because he's more better and more well suited for those pass catching situations. But any short yardage situation where you need a first down, you put Kareem in. And then you use Kareem more in the second half. That's what the Chiefs did yesterday. So I hope the Chiefs have a similar approach and a similar plan with their running back position, because I thought Kareem played very well yesterday. And again, they're not putting big numbers, and part of it is, they're splitting the workload between all the backs there with Kareem and Pacheco, and Perine gets involved a little bit. So, but I think Kareem is better suited for second half opportunities for sure. Play calling, Nagy needs to go. Mahomes needs to go through his reads better. I think part of it is, just connecting on those open pass catchers there, Josh. I think that's a big part of it, and he certainly did a better job with that. Kelce was wide open in open space there. I mean, you want to talk about social distancing making a comeback in 2025? Houston certainly did that yesterday. Now, is Buffalo going to do that? I don't believe so. But if there's anyone that's capable of putting together a game plan and trying to figure out who to get open in what situations, I won't put it past Andy Reid to be able to make that happen. Let's see what he does, because that is absolutely going to be important for next Sunday's AFC Championship game. Yeah, George Karlaftis, I mean, he went off. He certainly went off yesterday, for sure. We are going to learn who the refs are going to be tomorrow. I don't believe it's going to be Carl Cheffers, according to social media, but I don't think that's a guarantee. We will find out some point tomorrow who the referees will be. No, I agree with you. Drives have got to be better. That's the one big. Kansas City in the red zone this year has been bad. That has been a big weak point for Kansas City's offense. Like, you have that massive kick return plus the 15-yard penalty, and you start in the red zone and you do absolutely nothing. Oh, by the way, let me get this out of the way right now, because I do have one big gripe with Andy Reid's play calling here. I know some people think it's Andy Reid, Matt Nagy, whoever. I mean, Andy Reid's a head coach at the end of the day and keeps allowing this. That reverse play to Xavier Worthy, I mean, I know it worked to perfection the very first game of the season, and it's worked a couple of other times this season, but the Chiefs are running that play way too damn much. I promise you that Buffalo, all the tape they're going to study, they're going to try to be ready for that play right there. Buffalo will absolutely be ready for it. And I think Kansas City has kind of run that play to the ground where they do it way too damn much. At this point, I think you need to figure out how to do a fake reverse to Worthy to throw off the defense, because I think defenses are going to expect it at this point. Maybe Andy Reid does that kind of thing intentionally for a situation like this, to lead defenses in this big moment to believe that's what the offense is going to do. I don't know, but I feel like the Chiefs have ran that play too much. Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe that's just something where they've kind of been maybe a little full of themselves. I don't know. That's the one big concern I do have with the Chiefs play calling there, because that did push them back pretty far in the red zone. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Carl. I wanted Buffalo. I predicted Baltimore would win, but I wanted Buffalo all along. And honestly, I think Kansas City, I think the team wanted Buffalo. And the reason I say that is because if you watch the quarterback series on Netflix, when the Chiefs lost to the Bengals in the regular season, Mahomes is home just hanging out with his friends and family and everything. And his friends are asking him, they're like, who do you want to play in the AFC Championship game? He says that we match up better against Buffalo, but then says, I would rather play Cincinnati to avenge that loss earlier this year, which they successfully did. So I would be surprised if, I mean, listen, when you're the best, which Kansas City is, you should be able to play anyone and everyone. You should be ready for anyone and everyone at any time. And I think Kansas City is going to, the Kansas City is going to want to play Buffalo to avenge that loss, for sure. I would have a hard time believing they would not want that. Yeah, that'll certainly be brought up as the week goes on. Yeah, I mean, Timothy, I'm sure their fan base would have said that, but at the end of the day, it's like all you have to really say in response to them is they didn't do enough to win, to be able to beat them a second time potentially. But that's not a scenario we have to discuss really much of. You just said they're up 3 now. What do you mean? On the betting line? I still see it at 1.5. The Eagles are 4.5 point betting favorites. That one, I really like both conference championship games. I really do. I mean, this is going to be a fun weekend of football. It really will. Yeah, whoever the refs like more, right? Because, you know, we've seen the refs favor the Chiefs and we've seen the refs favor the Bills. This is a really bad week for people who hate the refs, I guess. Yeah, I mean, Daniel, you're right, but it's a good call. Don't get me wrong, but that one was kind of obvious because Kansas City put in their damn backups because they were allegedly scared of a team that lost 8 games. I think the idea is, Mary, like if the Chiefs were able to do what they did last year, why can't they do it again this year? Because last year was a far worse season, offensively speaking. But every year is a different year. Every game's a different game. And yeah, Kansas City had to go on the road for the divisional round and the AFC Championship game. I kept mentioning Watson and Omenihu did not play in that Bills game, nor did Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown did not play in that game either. So we'll see how the Chiefs go about that football game. Yeah, I think that's the logic that people are using, that he won't officiate next week's game. So yeah, man, Adam, I'm with you. This has to be Kansas City's best effort, offensively speaking. I mean, look, it's kind of obvious. I mean, the further you get, you have to be able to play your best game. I think you trust that the defense will do it, but I think there's some question marks about what the offense, not necessarily is capable of doing, but can they execute? That's the big question right there for Kansas City's offense. Will they be able to execute the game plan? That is going to be very important here, because you cannot afford going to the red zone multiple times like the Chiefs did and starting off with field goals. I mean, unless your defense absolutely shuts out the Bills, which is not happening. If the Chiefs start Sean Hercules, you can bet Bills lose. I don't know why you think that, Blake, but no Hard Knocks after this week. Was hoping to see the Chiefs on it again. Yeah, because aren't the AFC North teams, aren't they all done? So I guess that's why, yeah, there's no Hard Knocks. They're -5 on 365. Yeah, they're still at 4.5. I mean, they're all pretty close at the end of the day. Yeah, the money line's pretty interesting because Buffalo started out -105. Then they were +100. Now they're +105. So in the span of an hour, that's how the line's gone. That's going to be the probably the biggest question of the week, Thomas, is how the offensive line is going to go. My guess is Tootie stays there. Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, no question about it. I just think there is a little bit of a concern that Hollywood and Hopkins did not get going, but what's done is already done. I don't think you can really, you can't go back and change anything. I think just moving forward, one way to look about it is they weren't, going out there doing anything physically demanding, especially Hopkins. He only played 16 snaps. Is this a game where Hopkins plays much more? Probably. So we'll see what happens. Okay, we're going to go ahead and end on that note. We have a lot of people tuning into the live stream, and I appreciate all of you guys watching live. For those of you who came in late, apologies, probably catching the tail end of this podcast. I'm about to comment on in the comments here. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. There's the link right there. That is the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to it if you haven't done so already. We put a lot of great content on there this season. Started doing the YouTube channel this year. I've never really done YouTube before, so this is the first season we did it and got a lot of followers as the season's gone along. It's gradually growing. That's the one where I have the fewest followers right now because it is fairly new. So if you haven't done so, please make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you know any big Chiefs fans who love Chiefs content, please share that along with them as well. And while I have all of you guys here right now, if you haven't done so already, please give this video a share. Anytime you guys like and share, the comments obviously are great as well. But anytime you guys like and share the content, that's how we really grow. The name gets out there, the podcast gets out there. It really does go a long way. So I greatly appreciate you guys doing that as well. That's how, the algorithm pushes out the podcast and all the social media content. And I know you guys are already doing that because this has by far been the best year for the podcast and the social media this season, bigger than any other season has ever been. And that is a big thanks to you guys. If it wasn't for you guys, I'd just be talking to that camera right there that I'm looking at right now. It would just be me and that camera and this microphone and all this crap in front of me that you guys can't see. It's a mess. This desk is a mess. It looks pretty for what you guys see, but trust me, down in this desk here, it is a mess. Maybe I'll do a BTS one of these days, and you guys can know what the hell I'm talking about. Okay, guys, I'm out of here quickly. Monday, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Time, we will do the Chiefs Zone podcast live. Wednesday, we'll do an episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast, and then we'll do another one on Thursday. That'll be the game breakdown between the Chiefs and the Bills. I'll give you my score prediction for that game. I'll also give you my prediction for the NFC Championship game. And then we will do the Red Friday live chat this Friday. I don't know exactly what time, but I will let you guys know whenever we do the podcast on Thursday. So just make sure you're tuned into all of that. If you can't catch them live, make sure you're going to the national championship. Yeah, we'll make it quick, I guess. We'll figure that out as we go, I guess. But we usually do a Monday evening podcast, but maybe we have to reroute. Good call on that one, Mac. I completely forgot college football still going on. But we'll figure it out as we go, I guess. If we have to start early, we'll do that. All right, I'm Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all for downloading and listening to this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast, whether you're tuning on Facebook, YouTube, live, or if you're catching us on the archive version on any of those sites or on Apple, Spotify, or wherever. Always appreciate all of you guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Peace out.